Kiss of the Spider-Woman movie review, Jennifer Lopez, Tonatiuh power-engaging musical drama with compelling performances. Sometimes a movie arrives that surprises audiences in ways they didn't expect. Not because of massive action scenes. Not because of visual effects. But because of powerful performances and emotional storytelling. That's exactly what's happening with the new adaptation of Kiss of the Spider-Woman. Starring global superstar Jennifer Lopez and rising talent Tonatiuh Lovers, this film blends musical storytelling, political drama, and deep character exploration. It's bold. It's emotional. And it's very different from the typical Hollywood musical. But the big question is, does this modern version live up to the legacy of the story that has already inspired a famous novel, stage musical, and an award-winning film? Today we're going to break down everything about this movie. The story behind Kiss of the Spider-Woman. Jennifer Lopez's performance and why critics are talking about it. Tonatiuh's breakout role. The musical elements that drive the story. And whether this adaptation truly works as a modern film. So if you're curious about this film or wondering whether it's worth watching, let's dive in. Before we talk about the new film, we need to understand the history behind this story. Kiss of the Spider-Woman originally began as a novel written by Manuel Puig in 1976. The story quickly became famous for its unusual narrative style and emotional depth. It focuses on two prisoners sharing a jail cell in Argentina during a politically tense period. These two men couldn't be more different. One is a political revolutionary. The other is a dreamer who escapes reality through fantasy and cinema. Their conversations slowly reveal deep truths about identity, freedom, and human connection. Over time, the novel became hugely influential. It was adapted into a stage play, a film in the 1980s, and later a Broadway musical. In fact, the stage version became one of the most famous musicals of its time, winning major awards and introducing iconic songs. Now the story has returned once again, this time as a modern cinematic musical. And that's where this new version enters the picture. The film follows the relationship between two prisoners who are forced to share a cell. Tonatiuh plays Molina, a man who survives prison life by escaping into fantasy. He tells elaborate stories about glamorous movie characters to distract himself from the harsh reality around him. Those stories often revolve around a mysterious and seductive figure known as the Spider-Woman. That fantasy character is played by Jennifer Lopez. On the other side of the cell is Valentin, a hardened political prisoner. At first, Valentin finds Molina irritating and naive. But as time passes, their conversations begin to change both of them. The stories Molina tells become more than simple entertainment. They become a bridge between two completely different worldviews. And slowly, a complicated emotional bond forms between the two prisoners. What makes the film unique is how it blends harsh prison realism with vivid musical fantasy sequences. When Molina tells his stories, the movie transforms into colorful musical numbers featuring Lopez as the Spider-Woman. These dreamlike moments contrast sharply with the bleak prison environment. That contrast becomes one of the film's strongest storytelling tools. One of the biggest reasons audiences were curious about this movie was Jennifer Lopez. Lopez has had a long and varied career. She's known as a pop star, an actress, a dancer, and a global entertainer. But in Kiss of the Spider-Woman, she steps into a very different type of role. Her character isn't just a person. She's a fantasy symbol. The Spider-Woman represents glamour, danger, and seduction within Molina's imagination. Because of that, Lopez appears mostly in stylized musical sequences rather than traditional narrative scenes. And honestly, this works extremely well. Her background in music and dance makes her perfectly suited for these moments. She commands attention every time she appears on screen. The choreography, costumes, and dramatic lighting amplify her presence. But it's not just spectacle. Lopez also brings emotional depth to the character. Even though the Spider-Woman is a fantasy figure, she gradually becomes more complex as the story unfolds. That's where Lopez's performance becomes especially interesting. She balances theatrical performance with subtle emotional cues, which helps keep the fantasy grounded in the film's themes. While Jennifer Lopez may be the most recognizable name in the cast, the emotional heart of the film comes from Tonatiuh Lovers, His portrayal of Molina is deeply engaging. Molina is a complex character. He's vulnerable, imaginative, and often misunderstood. Through his storytelling, he tries to survive an environment filled with fear and oppression. Tonatiuh's performance captures both the fragility and resilience of the character. At times he's playful and humorous. At other moments, he reveals deep loneliness and pain. The transformation of Molina throughout the film becomes one of the most powerful elements of the story. And Tonatiuh handles that transformation with impressive subtlety. For many viewers, this role may mark his true breakout moment in cinema. One of the biggest challenges of adapting Kiss of the Spider-Woman for modern audiences is balancing musical storytelling with serious drama. Musicals can sometimes feel disconnected from realistic stories. But in this film, the music serves a very specific purpose. The musical numbers represent Molina's imagination. They allow the audience to see the glamorous world he escapes into when reality becomes too painful. These sequences are visually striking. They feature an elaborate choreography, a vibrant lighting, classic musical theater style. Yet they also contrast sharply with the prison setting. That contrast highlights the central theme of the story: the power of imagination and storytelling in the face of oppression. When the film shifts from dark prison scenes to bright musical performances, it feels like entering another world. And that emotional shift helps the audience understand Molina's inner life. Beyond its performances and musical elements, the film explores several powerful themes. Identity. The story explores questions about identity, acceptance, and societal expectations. Molina's experiences highlight how people often struggle to find acceptance in a world that doesn't understand them. Freedom. The prisoners are physically trapped, but through storytelling and imagination, they find moments of emotional freedom. The film asks an important question: can imagination become a form of resistance? Human connection. Perhaps the most powerful theme is the evolving relationship between Molina and Valentin. Two completely different individuals slowly learn to understand one another. Their conversations reveal how empathy can grow even in the harshest circumstances. So does this new version of Kiss of the Spider-Woman succeed? For the most part, yes. The film delivers strong performances, especially from Tonatiuh and Jennifer Lopez. It also manages to balance musical spectacle with emotional storytelling.